they take those things way more personally than the player does. But nip it in the bud. Like just because somebody doesn't say anything after you wrote something doesn't mean that we're cool.
This is Bottom Line Burke.
The expensive truth with Bottom Line Burke. The expensive truth with Bottom Line Burke.
The expensive truth with Bottom Line Burke.
And that's the bottom line.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Expensive Truth with Bottom Line Burke. My guest this time around, I found another good one, a legend in the game. He has been with the Washington Post for the last 10 years. Prior to that, this exceptional columnist was with the Seattle, it was in Seattle with the, was it the
Seattle Times.
Seattle Times? He was with the Orlando Sentinels, and he was with one of the arguably the toughest markets, besides the New York Times as well, but the Philadelphia Inquirer as well. What a tough sports crowd to please. But the thing that I wanted to make sure I acknowledge and celebrate this brilliant columnist, because of his work recently of last year, how grievance splintered American sports, the fight over Jackie Robinson, the media's role in fracturing sports, has culminated into this distinguished columnist to be a Pulitzer Prize 2025 nominee. He gets my full support and my vote. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, help me introduce Jerry Brewer. What's going on, man? We finally connected.
Finally, like I'm so glad we're able to do this. This is the expensive truth. I'll give it to you for half price this time.
No, I love it. I love it. I just think that because we have unique seats that we have been fortunate to sit in, you being a national columnist, writing about different sports, um, interests, intersections. And I love how you say sports isn't the story, but it provides the platform to tell a story. Can you quickly elaborate what you mean by that? That's kind of your mantra.
Yeah, Jamal, I knew this is what I wanted to do when I was 15 years old.
Wow.
And I was still messing around trying to play sports myself, baseball and basketball. But I always had this mind if I was up at the plate with a runner in scoring position, game on the line, I would have it in the back of my head like, what would it mean if I got the game-winning hit? What would it mean if I struck out? And as an athlete, I think everyone who knows anything about athletes is you got to stay mindful in the moment. Like you can't be thinking about what if this, what if that.
Mhm.
And looking back, that's probably when I realized, like, forget about my level of athletic ability or lack thereof. I was not meant to be an athlete because I was too in my head. I couldn't stay in the moment in that way. But when I started covering sports, it married my two loves. Just an intense love of writing and an equally intense love of sports. When I started covering sports, the thing I thought about all the time was how people's lives play out in front of hundreds in high school,
Yep.
thousands in high school, many thousands, like at the upper levels of sports. We're able to tell just based on their performance whether they had a good day or not. And I think about maybe it's a little bit different in terms of me and what I write and my output. You might decide whether I had a good day or not based on whether like you liked what I wrote or what I produced that day.
Mhm.
But by and large, for the most part, you don't know what my Monday through Friday was really like. I'm able to hide that. Like athletes aren't,
Right.
coaches aren't. And so I always have had a healthy respect for that. Like I look at it like their lives are playing out on a stage in front of all of us. And
Mhm.
you have to have a respect for what that means to be under that amount of pressure. So when I go to games, like I am looking for the human experience, right? Like, and sometimes it's a triumphant moment, Sometimes it's just a disappointing setback. Sometimes you really understand like the character and the human spirit. And if someone is grinding through an injury and has a dramatic moment, or if someone had a family member pass away
Right.
and they decided to play that night, like I'm looking for those kinds of human stories and those human moments through
Mhm.
sports. And it explains more to you than just who won or who lost.
Right. I agree with that. And thank you for providing some imagery as far as some matrices is when you're sitting down, you're watching the game, and then following afterwards, you're writing about what you've seen. And these are the categories or the vantage points that you're looking to write about. And I think that captures a bigger demographic of audience members who, when you're talking about only 1% have played collegiate sports, professional sports. What what do you say to the athletes that say, how does Jerry get the authorization to critique my skill set as far as my game at the collegiate level or the professional level when he's never been in my shoes? What's your response to athletes who share that mentality?
Well, that my professional response is I've done my homework. I went to college, studied this. I've had many trainings just on journalism. It's
Hmm.
about telling stories,
Right.
right? And like I don't need to know how to make a fire to tell a story about someone who built and made a fire,
Right.
right? And in some cases we see this is the petty side of me. In some cases, uh, we see athletes who have transitioned to media. Like, yes, you do know your sport, but you don't understand the fundamentals of journalism, and it shows up.
Right. And
And
that's something too, Jerry. I'm glad you brought that up because that's a great segue into what I also wanted to share, because now in today's climate, more often you see a lot of athletes because of their credentials and past experience at the professional level in sports or collegiate, now they afforded the seats to speak and analyze about the game, but you still have a fiduciary responsibility and a journalistic integral responsibility to do a good job at that, even though you're just occupying that spot. What do you say to those athletes who think, oh, I can just talk about sport, but they don't understand or they grossly underestimate the difficulties in actually being a columnist or journalist like yourself?
yeah, I think it's really important that everyone has a healthy respect for what prism through which we're viewing sports,
Hmm.
right? Like if I'm coming at this and saying I am going to tell you what it's like to play on the defensive line, and I'm going to analyze and be hypercritical of uh, whether this defensive lineman did his job or not.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm going to be a miserable failure at that. Like that's not the lane I should be looking at that. That's not the prism I should be viewing it from.
Hmm.
My job is to look at it and say, well, you gave up 180 rushing yards. Why?
Right.
And have like a really respectful curiosity as to what went wrong here.
Right.
Or you threw for 340 yards, and this receiver had 10 catches for 215. Why
Hmm.
was he so effective today? Why were the corners um, so victimized today? That's my lane, right? Like I think from the standpoint of those who have played the game and played it at a high level, they already know the answers to a lot of the whys. But
Hmm.
then you have to have a healthy respect, as you know. Uh, uh, you may know what a cover two defense is, but you don't know exactly how that team is playing it. And
Right.
um, so much mind chaos going on in the game of football, for instance, that they want to make it look this way, but really the responsibilities of each individual player may be a little bit different,
Yeah, they
right?
disguise the defenses. Absolutely.
Yes,
They make it.
exactly, right? Like you want that picture to feel like it's the same to the average person or to that quarterback, but they're playing like high level chess.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it takes sometimes it takes a former athlete to understand that, But then they have to ask the question, okay, why? Or what's the thing that I'm missing here? But they can go and they can go to the person and speak their language. And so like for us, like we're always looking for, we have to go that extra mile to translate things that much more. And so I think like everyone needs to understand that journalism, it's not even like a rainbow, it's like a kaleidoscope, right? Like there are a lot of different aspects in sports journalism and how to tell the story.
Right.
And a lot of different people play like critical roles. Like some people are really good at getting information out of executives. Some people are really good at getting information out of coaches. Some people are really good in the locker room with players. Some people are just really good at the sociology of sport and kind of understanding what this game, this event means in the big picture of things.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are really good at statistical analysis. Like I think it all matters, and it's all a factor into giving people the most comprehensive report on what happened in a game or a series of games. And too often we look at it in this sort of binary way as did you play the game or did you not?
Right.
And I think that's missing the point. Like all storytellers like have a great story to tell, but we just have to be humble in our approach and tell the story that we know to tell and not fake the funk and try to be something that we're not.
Amen. I love that authenticity, and I appreciate you taking the time to provide that type of clarity because it is the ultimate collaboration when you just highlighted different facets of the same game could be told through the different prisms as far as the storytelling, that the different responsibilities and perspectives that are possible, to be told about the same game. I want to take the viewers inside to a unique opportunity as far as the insight of a journalist or a columnist like yourself. Recently, one of the LSU coaches, Chip Kelly, on the first question during a post game press conference, had such a visceral question to a very simple on surface question like, how do you think your office did? Right? Seems very innocent, and it just was a disconnect of why Coach Kelly responded such a visceral. That's the question you're gonna ask on the first question, and he went on a tangent. Is it possible that had something to do with something prior that actually lingered? In your experience, do relationships with journalists and coaches and players is that something that lingers depending on how somebody was criticized prior to the current game being reported on?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Brian Kelly in that moment was upset at the reporter because he had asked every game, like for 3 weeks, about why the offense was struggling.
Right.
And Brian Kelly's like, hey, we're top 7 in the country. Our defense is playing great. Why does this have to be the first question? Right.
Right.
And so there was a lot there of he was clearly annoyed, not just at the line of questioning about their offensive struggles, but the fact that that reporter was asking him that question again. And it goes to show, for those who don't know, post-game interviews, there is typically a mandatory 10-minute cooling off period before interviews. Often that is 15 or 17 minutes before you talk to someone. And the point being, you don't want to, like in high school, if you are covering high school sports, you just find somebody as they're coming off the field and you talk to them, very similar to how you would see a TV reporter on Monday Night Football talk to someone immediately after the game. But mind you, they're always talking to the victors after the game, not the losers. And they give the losers that cooling off period. But it's just so everybody can bring down the temperature. Um, the coach and the players can talk in the locker room among themselves, and then you go out and you address the media. And those moments are always heated because you just went out and you had the fiercest competition that you could possibly have for 2, 3. Sometimes if we're talking about baseball in an extra inning game, it could be 4 hours. I covered a 4-hour, 58-minute, 15-inning baseball game between the Mariners and the Tigers that was for all the marbles last week, and they needed a little more than 10 minutes before they came out and talked. You know, one team is pouring beer and champagne on each other, the other team is lamenting that they lost by one run, one play over a 5 hour game. And I think there's a responsibility on the coach, on the players to be professional, obviously, but there's a responsibility of on the reporters in that situation to be professional as well, and that's have a healthy respect for the fact that um, number one, this is hard, right? Major college or any level of college, high level high school, on up to the pros. This is hard. And you don't just poo poo wins, right? And then you definitely don't insult people for losing. And you have to have that, you have to think extra hard about how you frame questions. And sometimes people are going to be upset and they're going to pop off. And as a reporter, you have to say that's okay. Um, and you're constantly trying to just lower the temperature and redirect. And sometimes there might be some moments where, particularly if it's a coach, they're going to come back at you.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to like raise the energy and show how tough you are in that moment. What you want to do is you want to lower the temperature
Mm-hmm.
and you want to be just very respectful in the follow up that you ask because often they're not even mad at you. They're just mad at something about how the game went. And it's an interesting dance, right? And I think it's been made harder, Jamal, by the fact that relationships aren't what they used to. Like these aren't the days when the reporters rode the train with Babe Ruth and like had beers with him as he was talking about things, and they didn't dare report anything he said in that moment because they knew they would come back to him in a more official capacity later. Now, like the access to people and the opportunities to get to know them are really, really restricted.
Right.
And that's why I think we have like certain incidents because we don't know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's our job as reporters to get them to see us. We have to, number one, we have to see them not just as an athlete that we're trying to interview. We have to see them as human beings. And
Right.
then we have the extra burden as a reporter to get them to see us as human beings. And
Right.
a
And I
lot of
think
that
that,
means
yeah, go ahead.
put
I'm
put
sorry. Go
this
ahead.
thing, this notebook we have here for us little word herders, our little writers. But sometimes you got to put that notebook away. This recorder, this phone that we're recording on, put that thing away. And as much as possible, just talk to them as human beings. Try to find some commonality. Be similar to what it's like when you're trying to make a friend. Fully understanding that there are like these barriers and there are to the relationship. But if we can all see each other for who we are, that makes for better exchanges. So the bottom line is you got a lot of work to do before you get in that post-game press conference and you ask somebody a tough guy question.
Yeah, no question. I think that was a brilliant answer. And that also leads me to my next question is how do you handle that challenge? Because the connections are few far in between, whether it's social media, whether it's like, when you're talking about the collegiate space with NIL, players only there for a year and gone. So there's no continuity, there's no chance to really build rapport. I guess putting the recorders away and the notebooks books away and building that. I guess the question is, how do you build rapport and maintain rapport with players, but at the same time handling your job about writing what you see?
Yeah, sometimes you're restricted by how much time you have, right? Like it's the NFL and Major League Baseball are probably have the longest stretches of time where their space is open. And typically, every day or um, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there's going to be an open locker room in the NFL, and it's usually at least 30 minutes open. It used to be there would be an open locker room before a practice and after practice. And so you had even more time, sometimes up to 90 minutes a day around the players. Baseball is, there's a clubhouse period before they go out to batting practice, and then there's or there used to be a period afterwards where you could get guys. So there's a little more time. If you're talking college football or college basketball, it's like really, really tight amount of time. It's probably going to be a bunch of people around where you can't get one-on-ones all the time. And you're just going to have to work, right? Like sometimes building a rapport is as simple as like as the person is leaving at the end of an interview, like saying something human to them, whether you like the outfit they had on or like that you saw them dancing to a certain song and you're just kind of asking them about like is that your style of music or sometimes it's just like you ask a question the wrong way and the person like helped you out and it's just like man thanks like
Right.
I really messed up on that question but I'm glad you got where I was coming from or whatever right like think about all the ways again that we try to make friends.
Right.
Fellas, I know people don't do this anymore because they got dating apps, but I always compare some of those tight situations to like, you know, back in my single days, when you would see a woman out that you're interested in and you want to go talk to her, but all her friends are around.
Right.
And like you got to figure out like what's the appropriate lane to be able to have some kind of conversation with. And it might just be something real quick.
Right.
Um, and it's the same thing, it's just all about just understanding like the interpersonal dynamics. And again, like putting this thing down and realizing like there's an opportunity to connect.
So let me ask you this. So you have had success connecting and actually establishing a friendship with players, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Over the years, yes,
Okay. So,
especially when I was around their age, when I was in my 20s.
right. So how did you protect your friendship and still was able to do your job? I know Stephen A always says he doesn't talk about anything personal that he sees of a player, like for instance, Allen Iverson. And that was kind of his mantra. But anything that hits the papers or in the news that's publicly known, he'll discuss that. Do you have a mantra or advice to young reporters who actually create relationships with players, but and how to kind of manage that?
Yeah, it's one of the tough things, and right, like that's why or whatever about ethics.
Mhm.
Um, the real practicality of ethics is a very, very fluid thing.
Yes.
I think it's important that you get as close to them, but they understand like, hey, there's a line here, right? Like this is a professional relationship, and like we get along really well, but there may be some times when I have to criticize you or whatever. I might have to ask you a really tough question in front of a bunch of people.
Right.
I will do it in as respectful a manner as possible. But then also like I'm not gonna burn you, right? Like people really got to understand like in our interactions, the difference between just some side comment that was always meant to be off the record and something that was truly on the record.
Well,
You
Jerry,
know?
when you ask the players those questions, what's some typical responses?
I mean, uh, if you have like locker room banter, for instance, right? Like you're doing you think about like, I'll use the example with the NFL with you, and you think about like those last few minutes of like a media availability,
Mhm.
when pretty much the interviews have been done, but everybody's just kind of waiting out the availability, and you're laughing and you're joking about something. I think about the days when
No, no,
I
I'm saying when you tell the players, hey, listen, I'm gonna have to critique you sometime, I'm gonna have to write some tough things about you.
they have a
But
respect for that.
what's some typical response from the player?
You know what? They usually have a healthy respect for that. Like I'm a big believer in setting the parameters. Like, hey, I know this is what the relationship is, but let me prove to you that I'm a cool person and I'm not gonna burn you. Like when it needs to be about business, it's gonna be about business. I'm not gonna be unfair to you. I'm not gonna take, unnecessary pot shots at you. I'm just going to tell you what it is.
Right.
And the thing that's helped me the most, Jamal, is just when it has been those moments when it's something that doesn't paint the person in a wonderful light,
Mm-hmm.
come back to them the next day, have a conversation,
Right.
right? Often they didn't read it, but their girlfriend read it, their
Mm-hmm.
wife read it, mama and daddy read it,
Right.
best friend read it, and they're getting information secondhand, right? Like, and those persons, like, those people are more pissed at you than the athlete is. Like they take those things way more personally than the player does, but nip it in the bud. Like just because somebody doesn't say anything after you wrote something doesn't mean that we're cool.
Right.
Um,
You
and
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
now there's just a lot of like relationship maintenance. And the amazing thing for journalists out there is those moments when you're just doing something to maintain the relationship, that's when sometimes people open up to you even more,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I remember one time I was covering the NBA and just in the locker room and just asking, what do you think about the coverage given you this year? Is it fair? It's like right around the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
And one player was like, yeah, you've been really fair to me, but this one thing like you've gotten wrong, like you don't know the full story.
Mm-hmm.
And like, let me tell you the full story. And it wound up being one of the more significant stories that I broke. And I wasn't looking to like come in there and break a story. I was just chit-chatting with the guys on the road around the All-Star break, just making sure that we are all cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when like people are like, okay, this dude is like actually invested. And I mean, athletes are incredibly disciplined human beings. Um, they have like a code that they live by,
Mm-hmm.
that keeps everyone connected. And they want to know that like you have discipline, that you work hard, and that you have a code as well.
Yeah.
And if they can see that in you, I think it allows them to loosen up a little more and be like, okay, if I
Brilliant point.
give this person something that's just um, you know, really sensitive, if I'm vulnerable with this information, they'll do right by me.
Right. No, that's an outstanding perspective. And no wonder you've been so successful for all these decades that you've been in the business because
Oh
that
my God, decades. Oh,
was the truth,
but
right?
but it
You
is
you
it,
just didn't
it's
get here yesterday, Jerry.
no, it's the very expensive truth. Yes, it's been decades now.
Right. No, applause and just kudos to just your discipline, your dedication, your hard work that people are able to identify that. I was going to ask you as well, somebody else who's been doing a magnificent job for over the last 4 decades, Rob Parker, who
Yes.
just was honored by his alma mater, Southern Connecticut State, who named a press box after him just to celebrate his work. What's your thoughts on Rob and just his contribution to the sports media world in general?
Uh, I would just want to say a wonderful congratulations. I've already told him that via text message. I mean, have a press box, have your
That's
alma
big.
mater's press box named after you. I went to Western Kentucky and they ain't thinking about like naming this the Jerry Brewer press box. They'd be like, man, you can not be a finalist for these Pulitzers. You can win three of them. We still ain't gonna name this press box after you. So I just the tremendous impact that he has had Rob has had on the business, um, generations now. And I'm not trying to make Rob seem old because he OG, but he can still get down.
100%.
The impact he has had on generations of journalists,
Hmm.
mostly black, is tremendous. Like all of us have, in some way, been touched by him, whether he was our mentor or he was just our biggest advocate and supporter.
Right.
And Rob is still on top of his game. Like he has a great love of baseball, and he's
Loves
done
baseball. Yeah.
MLB Bro and that initiative. Uh, you have to remember like what it was like being Rob Parker, or I'll give you another name, Claire Smith, just a tremendous Hall of Fame uh, sports writer who was known for her baseball coverage. What it was like being black back in the 80s,
Mm.
in some cases in the 70s, even on into the 90s. even to now, what it's like being black in a baseball clubhouse where, um, I'll show up for this Mariners Brewers uh, ALCS playoff game, and if there's three black people in the press box, we got to take a picture because like that's a miracle. And so imagine those days when like there might have been three in the whole league,
Yeah.
covering teams, and what it meant for them to do the job the way I've been talking about, being human, having them see you as human, earning respect, building bridges as opposed to just writing stories. Like that's what we're talking about here. Building bridges, not just writing stories.
Right.
I'm a big believer that like um, everybody in that sports ecosystem, like I am the medium, right? Like I'm sort of the messenger. Like we're and when it works beautifully, we're all working together
Hmm.
to give an account of something that happened in this time that's going to live forever.
Right.
Um, really understanding that. And so I have just a tremendous amount of respect for uh, Rob's career and the many transitions he's made in his career and how excellent he has been
Yeah.
at everything from reporting to opinion writing to being a radio host to being an opinionist on television. Just a remarkable career that's continuing. And I think we all like need to visit that press box. Hopefully one day we'll. We all don't want to be in Connecticut at certain times of year, but when the weather's good enough, we should all visit it and just have a reception there because that's a special, special thing.
Yeah, it's quite the honor, and it's my backyard as well. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, so home of New England. Usually the fall time's good, the foliage, right? But really
Yes.
all the business when the leaves change color. I took it for granted. I've seen it my entire life. I had no idea people fly to New England during the foliage months just to see the turning of the just see a blue leaf, a red leaf, or yellow leaf. I had no idea. So but one thing I
Yeah,
would
you are
not,
taking it for granted.
that's what
Look
I'm
at you.
saying. Exactly. I'll admit that. I must admit I did. I didn't know that was a thing. But one thing I will not take for granted is your time. I want to say thank you for creating the time and educating the viewers on the insights of a journalist and just some of the do's and don'ts and just want to definitely make sure all the voters vote for you for your work, outstanding work, and I look forward to our next call as well.
Yeah, I can't wait. Next time we got to do this in person,
Yes.
which is going to bring me to another area that I love to be in that you probably take for granted. So enjoy home, your new home.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Jerry, enjoy the rest of your day, and it was great talking to you.
Same here.